From Charles Dickens and Jane Austen to George Orwell, the Beatles, and J.K. Rowling, England has made some truly incredible contributions to the English language. However, the undisputed master is without a doubt William Shakespeare. Born in Stratford-upon-Avon in the English Midlands, Shakespeare married in his late teens and moved to London to chase his dream of writing for the theatre. If his pregnant wife was concerned about their financial security, she needn't have worried. Shakespeare, or the Bard, went on to become not only the most successful writer of his time, but also the most influential writer ever in the English language. In fact, any language. Shakespeare's works have been translated into over 100 languages, including Mongolia, Icelandic, and even Klingon. Spock was evidently a huge fan. His first published work was the poem Venus and Adonis in 1593, and he didn't look back. Shakespeare's earlier works included poems and comedic plays. He then upped the ante to focus on more dramatic material, which is now legendary. Even though his work didn't start to earn widespread fame and approval until the 17th and 18th centuries, Shakespeare had started to build a formidable reputation as a groundbreaking writer. After cutting his teeth with critically acclaimed poems and sonnets, Shakespeare wanted to write plays that examined the human existence. He penned classics such as Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, Othello, and Hamlet, which have struck a chord with audiences and readers ever since. Shakespeare's works have the double whammy of being huge successes in both the written and spoken forms. His poems, plays, and sonnets have all resonated with people from all walks of life, making his works timeless. There are several reasons why Shakespeare was so successful. First of all, he wrote about universal themes, which anybody can relate to. Here's just a taste of what a typical Shakespeare play might offer: love, death, ambition, betrayal, hope, the quest for power, jealousy, rage, and joy. These are some of the fundamental themes and emotions that people have and will always experience and deal with, until we become robots. But regardless, if you are a 17th century merchant in the audience or a high school student in 2024, these themes ring true for everybody. It means Shakespeare's writing has always been able to engage the reader or audience, as we can all relate to the situations and dilemmas his characters face. Shakespeare had a profound understanding of the human condition, which allowed him to explore all of the positive and negative aspects of human life. Take a moment and ponder the wisdom of some of these excerpts. On false hope. Expectation is the root of all heartache. Regarding integrity. Honesty is the best policy. If I lose mine honor, I lose myself. And on one of his favorite topics, love. Love looks not with the eyes, but with the mind. What's more, Shakespeare showed us that everyone was susceptible to negative emotions and everyone was capable of great fortune. From kings and queens to those on the lowest rungs of society, Shakespeare was able to show that social status had no bearing on someone's fortunes in life. He loved to create stories that tested a person's moral character and explored human weaknesses and inner strengths. This, of course, makes for riveting reading and viewing. Who doesn't want to see a lowly peasant fall in love or a foolish royal lose everything because of lust or greed? Which brings us to another of Shakespeare's gifts, storytelling. Any half-decent play hinges on two things, plot and character. If the writer can absorb the audience with a gripping story and colorful characters, the odds are good that it's going to be a hit. It's fair to say that Shakespeare absolutely nailed these. His stories wasted no time in getting straight into the action. Look at the opening scene of Othello. Rodrigo and Iago are arguing about a woman named Desdemona in the street. We want to know why. Then we learn Rodrigo has been paying Iago to win the heart of Desdemona, but she's gone off and married Iago's boss. The audience is hooked and instantly suspicious of this Iago character. Or there's Macbeth, which begins with three witches hatching a plot in the midst of a storm. And Romeo and Juliet, two groups of feuding servants malign each other, and then come to blows. Who wouldn't stick around to see more of this? Shakespeare knew human nature intrinsically, and that we're absolutely compelled by drama. He cut straight to the chase and drew his audience in immediately. Of course, every good story is only as good as its characters, and this is where Shakespeare really stood out, especially in his day. At the time, playwrights were creating largely two-dimensional characters with little subtlety or mystery. A villain was clearly a villain, and heroes and heroines were obvious from the moment they stepped onto the stage. However, Shakespeare gave his characters intrigue and depth. They had flaws and ulterior motives and were unpredictable. They were fully rounded characters with believable thoughts and actions, whether good or evil. They were human. Take Macbeth, for example, a battle-hardened general who aspires to be king and yet can't forgive himself for the acts that brought him to power. Or Juliet, who on the surface seems to be innocent and obedient of a girl, but is actually a resourceful and sharp-witted woman, determined to get what she wants and not afraid to disobey her father. The multi-layered characters of Shakespeare captivated his audiences and continue to do so. Without Shakespeare, there's no Hollywood, no Amazon bestsellers, and no Netflix binge watching. As if gripping storylines and fully fleshed out characters weren't enough, the Bard also had an unsurpassed command of the English language. Shakespeare was original in that he respected his audience. He didn't spell things out, and his characters often revealed their motives and thoughts subtly, leaving the audience to guess where the story might be headed, which is, of course, tremendous fun. Shakespeare experimented with language and employed a range of techniques to convey emotions, advance the plot, or simply entertain. For example, he used asides or soliloquies wherever a character would whisper to themselves on stage, so only the audience could hear. Hamlet reveals his true feelings for his uncle by murmuring, "A little more than kin, and less than kind." Soliloquies were often longer and more revealing private speeches. Sometimes the character could speak without being heard, and other times they might be unknowingly overheard. Romeo and audiences were thrilled to catch Juliet wishing, "Come night, come Romeo, come thou day and night." It set the tone for what was to become the most famous love story of all time. Shakespeare's dialogue was also unique. It was consistently witty, cutting, and colorful. The vivid imagery in Shakespeare's language heightened the drama, especially in his tragedies. When Macbeth was racked with guilt after murdering someone, he lamented, "Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand?" We immediately get a sense of his enormous regret, which haunts him throughout the play. There was also a tremendous sense of fun throughout Shakespeare's works. He was clearly delighted in wordplay and witticisms, many of which are still used today. He gave us Heart of Gold, Wild Goose Chase, Break the Ice, and the timeless Love is Blind, and many more. Initially, however, Shakespeare was renowned for his poems and historical plays. When he was alive, whoever sat on the throne of England had ultimate power, so audiences were fascinated with Shakespeare's historical insights. They were dying to learn about England's previous rulers and speculate on who might be Queen Elizabeth's heir. For many, Shakespeare's plays were their only source of information regarding history and politics. As his dramatic plays and tragedies became more and more popular, Shakespeare's reputation spread. One of the reasons for his widespread popularity was that his works were so accessible. Many of his plays were performed at the Globe Theatre in London. The Globe had a fancy seating for the upper classes, but also had a vast outdoor area known as the Pit, where anyone could fork out a penny and enjoy the play with the masses. As a result, Shakespeare was being consumed by the masses, who would naturally pass on their love for the Bard to their children, their children's children, and so on it went. As one of his more famous contemporaries, Ben Jonson, put it, Shakespeare was not of an age, but for all time. He was also adept at borrowing ideas and themes from older plays and poems and tweaking them to suit his engaging dramatic style. Italy was a great source of inspiration, and many of his stories were set in exotic Italian villages and castle courtyards. Shakespeare's themes and characters have left an indelible mark on popular culture throughout the ages. We all recognize a man blinded by love as a Romeo, or the evil, scheming Iago-type villain. Films, novels, and TV dramas are full of strong-willed women like Lady Macbeth, or others in positions of power plagued by their indecision, such as Othello and Hamlet. Shakespeare's innate sense for the dramatic has heavily influenced other art forms, such as opera and classical music. His impact on popular music can be seen in a whole range of artists, from Tupac to Taylor Swift and Metallica. He was also pivotal in bringing the study and science of psychology into the mainstream. Sigmund Freud was a longtime devotee of Shakespeare, often referring to the brilliant psychological study of characters such as Richard III. In short, life would be fairly dull without Shakespeare. His intrinsic understanding of what makes people tick and his gift with words means his work will always be relevant. As Nelson Mandela once said, "Shakespeare always seems to have something to say to us."